What's up, YouTube? Have you ever wondered what gear I use to film these YouTube videos? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. Okay, so this is kind of a follow-up video on last week's video, which was all about my studio setup. So you've seen some of this gear before, but now we're going to actually talk about what it all is and what I use each piece for. So let's go ahead and get started with that. The first thing that we're going to talk about is cameras. What cameras do I use to film, both for this YouTube channel and for the Yellow Van Travels channel and any other media work that I'm doing. So let's go ahead and get started with this guy right in the middle here. So this is the Osmo Pocket, and this is my main vlog camera. So this is what I use when we're traveling because it is so light, so easy, and gets such smooth footage. This is the original Osmo Pocket. The Osmo Pocket 2 is better because it has some upgraded features, and especially because it has the option to have a wireless microphone with it. So I am interested in looking into the Osmo Pocket 2 at some point, but for now this is really doing everything that we need it to do as far as vlogging, travel videos, that kind of thing goes. So I use this a lot for taking videos. I normally am shooting in the 2.7K format just so I have a little bit of extra resolution, but I'm publishing everything in 1080p. So I just use that little bit of extra resolution for like zooming in. And if I feel like I'm really going to need to crop in on a shot, I will change this to shoot in 4K. But I don't shoot most of my stuff in 4K. It just takes up a lot of extra room. And the kind of videos that I'm shooting don't really need to be shot in 4K because most people are watching them on a phone. They're just not watching them in the highest resolution. So I use this a lot for that. I also use it a lot for time lapses and hyperlapses. So that goes along well with those. I don't really use this for photography at all. I've done a little bit of photography with it. Sometimes I'll snap a photo with it if I kind of need to because I have it out and I'm filming and I just want to get a photo. But it's not a great photography camera. But for video, it's great. And just having a gimbal like this in your pocket just makes it so smooth. I really enjoy filming on this more than I enjoy filming on my phone, although I will mix some phone footage in with my vlogs. So that's the Osmo Pocket. When I'm doing that for audio, I'm just using the regular audio out of it most of the time. Once in a while, I'll hook up a lav mic and record that separately, which we'll talk about when we get to the audio section. But mostly I'm just using this. Okay, now while we have the Osmo Pocket out and we're looking at it, I'm going to show you my other cameras here. So this is the main camera right over here, which you saw last time. This is the A7 III, and hooked up to it is the Deity 4D Duo, and that's just hooked right into it. And then there is the mirror that some people have been interested in. I learned about that from Rob HK Vlogs, and you just put that on a camera without a flip out screen, and then you can still see yourself filming. So that's the kind of the main YouTube setup now, is this A7 III, and I'm really enjoying it. I really like it, and it's also my main photography camera, so I'm using it for shooting, portraits or landscapes or travel, whatever I'm shooting. I'm going to be using that for this year. I haven't got a chance to do a ton of stuff with it yet because I've only had it a couple months. We haven't been out on any trips or anything, but I'm really excited to be able to use a full frame camera now. And then below that we have the tripod. So this is a Fopic tripod just off of Amazon, and it is really good. It goes up quite tall, or also it can go quite short. It has a detachable monopod leg here, so you can shoot it with a monopod. It's got a ball head and a swivel head combo there. Quick release plate. I've just really enjoyed this tripod. It's not very expensive and it's lightweight, easy to use. So I've really enjoyed that. Again, I'll link all of this stuff with affiliate links down in the description below. While we're still here on the Osmo, let's go ahead and let's look at the B camera here, which is the Sony a6000. And this was the main camera for a long time, but it's of course been replaced with the a6000 now. So now it's going to be the B camera. It is here on this extender arm here that I showed you last time, and then it's just sitting on a Joby on top of a stool, just so I can get kind of that close-up shot. So that's the a6000. When I do use that for an A cam, I am using a lav mic so that I can pick it up, because the a6000's biggest weakness is that it doesn't have any mic inputs unless you are using the hot shoe with one of the Sony mics, which are pretty expensive. And that's the a6000 and the a7 III. So let's go ahead, let's switch back to the a7 III here, and let's keep looking at what other gear I have here. Since we were just talking about the a6000, let me just show you what lenses I have for it. On the a7 III, I'm just using the stock 28-70 right now. I'm looking into getting some other lenses, but for right now, that's serving its purpose well. It's a great little lens and doesn't cost very much, whereas some of the other lenses get quite expensive. On the a6000, I have the stock lens on there right now. That's going to be the 16-55 millimeter. Then I have a prime lens here, a 30mm. This is great for portraiture photography, or I use that for my studio shot for a long time. It's not quite wide enough, especially on an APS-C, to be a great studio shot, but it does work. And then I also have this zoom lens. So this is a 55 to 210. So this is a great little zoom lens. There's a lot of these floating around. They're not too expensive, but it just gives you a great range in being able to shoot something that's far away. So if I'm doing something travel-wise where I'm going to be shooting something far away, especially for a national park or something, I might bring this lens with me so that I can get in closer. And that's basically it for lenses. So I shoot a lot with Sony and DJI. So Sony for my main cameras and then DJI for a lot of my travel stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at these other DJI cameras here. This is the Osmo Action. This is not the 2. The 2 is kind of the squarish one with the mods that just came out recently. This is the original Osmo Action, and I really think this is the best action camera for your money. We've had a lot of interesting action cameras coming out lately, but this is a really solid action camera. Shoots 1080 and 4K and super wide, and it just works really well. They really had kind of honed in on what worked well with this camera. It has the front screen so that you can view yourself, and it has this removable lens cover, which just gives you a lot of peace of mind when you are shooting something actiony out there. So I use this in travel if we're doing anything with water. I use this for basically all of that, and it matches really well with the Osmo Pocket because they're both DJI cameras shooting in similar profiles. So I really like to use this one. I almost always have it attached because I'm mostly using it for water to this, but I will show you another tripod that I use later on that I use for a lot of travel stuff. If I'm going to use this for like a time lapse or anything like that, I'll put it on there. And it's nice to have this just if I know I'm going to be doing something that's a little bit more actiony, a little bit more dangerous, or involving water. I use that. And then the last DJI camera here is actually the Mavic Mini. This is the original Mavic Mini. The Mavic Mini 2 is better. I feel like everything that I talk about with DJI, I can tell you that the 2 is better and newer, except for maybe the action. I'm not sure about the action 2, but the DJI Mavic Mini 2 is better. But I was able to get a really good deal on this. I buy all of my cameras used in order to avoid paying kind of a premium on them. So I really recommend, especially if you're just getting into videography or photography, that you buy used cameras because you can avoid paying that premium from other people who are upgrading to the newer stuff. So I got a really good deal on this, so I decided it was great for my first drone to go with just the Mavic Mini, the original. And it can shoot well. I can't shoot 4K, but it can do well enough for me to learn to fly a drone and learn how to shoot some drone footage, and I'll probably upgrade later. The great thing about the minis, of course, is that they're under 250 grams, and so they don't have to be registered. I haven't really shot anything with this yet because we haven't really been on a lot of trips, and a lot of times when we do go on trips, we're in national parks and you can't film with a drone there, so I'm waiting till we go someplace where I can film and really kind of start getting used to this. I've done a couple test flights with it. It's a pretty easy drone to fly. And so I'm excited to be getting started with just a little bit of drone stuff in the future, although you probably won't see a lot of that on this channel since most of this channel is in studio stuff. So that's the Mavic Mini. Really like it. I did get the Fly More kit, so I have the extra batteries and it came with some extra propellers and stuff. That's what the person I bought it from was selling. And then to round out the cameras here, of course, we have the phone. Your phone is that camera that you always have with you, and this is the iPhone 11 Pro. So it is 3 years old now, but it's still an amazing camera. This is the first one with the 3-lens module built in, and so its versatility is huge. You can do so much with it. It shoots wonderful video, wonderful photos, and so it's the camera I always have with me, and if I just need to get a shot, I especially like to use this in places where I'm not going to be carrying around a bigger camera like the A7 III. So for example, when we were in Disneyland last year, I did not want to carry the A7 III with me. So this was my main photo camera. I had the Osmo Pocket for doing video, but I didn't want to carry around the A7 III just because it's bulky, hard to deal with when you're getting on and off of rides, trying to deal with little kids. So I just used this and it took fine pictures. It was great. So I pretty much rely on that for anything where I can't use my other cameras, and it's a great camera. And if your phone is all you have, that's fine. You can get started with photography and videography straight from your phone, especially if it's a phone with solid cameras. Like any of the iPhones in the last probably 5 or 6 years are probably good places to get started. Obviously, the newer it is, the better the cameras are going to be because they just keep improving year after year. Okay, so that's it for cameras. Again, these will all be linked down in the description, so go ahead and check those links out. And now we'll switch over and we'll talk a little bit more about microphones. Okay, so here we have some microphones. You can see that these are some pretty different microphones, and I don't have nearly as many of these as I have cameras. And we already talked about the Deity, which is on the A7 III right now, and that is a great little mic that I'm just starting to kind of learn how to use. But the beautiful thing about it is that it can pick up in both directions. So if you want to be behind the camera and picking up sound in front of the camera, you can do that. Or of course you can switch it to just pick up in the front of the camera, but there's no switching of the mic back and forth if you want to be able to pick up in both directions. And that's why I kind of went with the Deity Duo on that, because it's just super easy to be able to make that happen. And I like to have versatility in my tools and what I'm making. So that just goes in through the jack into the camera, and it's a pretty simple setup, but it's pretty much for use with just the camera. Whereas these mics here can be used in other situations as well and sunk up with a camera later if they need to be. So first off, we have the Blue Snowball here. Now this is a great little mic, and you can see I've got it kind of on this microphone arm here, which can swivel in several directions. And this is what we've been using for the podcast for a long time. It's a great little starter mic. It doesn't cost very much. It comes on like a dinky little stand, but one of my buddies had this mic stand around that he wasn't using, and he asked if I would like it, and so that's what I've been using. I don't really know where it came from or how much it would be, but it's got a really solid heavy weight on the bottom, and you can swivel the arm up and down and extend the arm a good, 18 inches or so. I really like to use this. We've used it for the podcast for a long time. We're trying out a video podcast format this year, and so I don't know how much I'll be using this going forward in the future, but it's my main screencasting mic as well. So if you ever watch my screencast, because it just plugs right into the computer, it's super simple to use while screencasting on that, or I'll also connect it to the iPad. Mine does connect via USB-A, so I do have to use a converter to convert it to USB-C, but that's not a big deal, and I'll talk about the converter I have when I get over to the desk setup later in this video. And then this other mic is actually the Zoom F2 recorder, and so it's just this little body pack, and this is about, I think, $200. I want to say it came out early last year. I pre-ordered it before that because this is kind of what I had been waiting for. It's much smaller than like a traditional Tascam or Zoom recorder, just a little body pack, and it comes with a lav mic that goes right in, so you don't have to buy your own lav mic, although you can upgrade it if you want to because it's a standard jack. And then this just records to a micro SD card, and the big thing is it records in 32-bit float, so you can't peak it out is my understanding, and you can always recover your audio, and I've never had trouble recovering audio from it, so I use this a lot. I just have a little tie there because the microphone that it comes with is pretty lengthy, and so I don't always need that much length, and so I will just wrap it up with the cord there, or just try and keep it organized when I'm storing it. So this is not the Bluetooth model. It does come with a Bluetooth model you can connect to your phone. I don't really see a need for me to be able to do that. If I need to change a setting, I just hook it up to the computer through a USB-C cord, and that works fine to just make the adjustments that I have to do. So pretty simple, you just turn it on, record, and it works super well. So I've really enjoyed using this mic. I won't be using it as much now that I'm recording on the Deity so that I don't have to sync my audio after, but especially when I was shooting everything on the A6000 and I didn't have a mic that could go into the camera, this was a total lifesaver. Again, that's the Zoom F2. Okay, now before we switch over to the desk setup, I just want to talk to you a little bit about tripods. Okay, so because I am using two of my tripods right now, I just have one here in front of me, but I have that faux pick one that the A7 III is on, and then I have the Joby over here that the A6000 is sitting on, and then this is my travel tripod, which is the Spivo travel tripod. And you might know Spivo for having made the Spivo stick. I do have that as well, but I didn't put it in this video because I don't really use it very much anymore because I use the Osmo Pocket for a lot of my filming, but when I'm traveling, I use this to put basically all my cameras on. So this has really strong legs, but they're also very flexible. So it's like a Joby, only it's even like more flexible than a Joby, so it's easier to wrap these legs around something. It's also easier to bring them together to hold if I want to vlog with it for any reason. And then it's got this ball head on top, and yeah, it's from Spivo. And I guess I should give disclosure on this. This tripod was not one that I bought because it was sent to us to review by Spivo for the travel blog. So I didn't buy it, but I have really enjoyed it, and I've continued to use it ever since they sent it to me, just because I find it to be really the most versatile kind of lightweight tripod there. So those are the tripods that I use, and then I have to add extender arm to lift things up higher or to do overhead shots if I need to do overhead shots. Oh, and one last note on the camera stuff. How am I carrying all of this? Well, currently I just have this little Sony bag here, which I use to carry whichever camera I'm going to be taking, but it's not a perfect solution. I'm currently waiting on the new Peter McKinnon backpack from Nomadic, which I supported on Kickstarter and is going to be able to carry all the gear that I need together whenever I'm traveling or anything like that. But unfortunately, that's been delayed due to COVID complications. So it was supposed to be in here in October, then we thought it would be here at the end of January, but now it's looking like maybe around beginning to mid-March it's going to be here, which is totally understandable. Everything has been delayed, but as soon as I get that, I will put an unboxing up here on the channel so you can kind of see what that looks like. I'm pretty excited for it because I think it's going to be a great solution for being able to carry my gear with me while I'm traveling and keep everything safe and kind of tidy. So that's what I'm going to be using in the future, but again, it's not here yet. Let's go ahead and switch over to the desk setup so you can see the computer and the iPad that I'm using. Okay, so here we are at the desk, which you probably saw last week on the studio tour video. So I won't take too long talking about my setup here, and I'll get into software on another video later. But let's go ahead and just talk about what this is. So I've kind of pulled this around so you can kind of see what's plugging in and that kind of thing. So this is the iMac from 2020. It's the yellow version, which I really like. It is completely spec'd out. So it has 16 gigs of RAM and a 2 terabyte hard drive. And so it's pretty much the top of the line iMac that you could buy. And I really have enjoyed using this machine. The 24-inch screen is a great kind of in-between size so that it's not huge, right? And it doesn't take up the entirety of my desk, but it is a good size for being able to do design work. So I really enjoy that. The screen is a great resolution for being able to do really detailed photo and design work. And so I've just completely enjoyed it. Some people really didn't like the white bezels when it came out, but I've had no problem with that. It hasn't bothered me at all. I think the design looks really nice. It looks great on my desk, and because it's so thin, it takes up less space than my old 21-inch iMac, which is really nice. For external storage, I've been using the SanDisk Extreme SSDs, and I've really enjoyed using them. They're super compact, super easy to use. I have the 1 terabyte and the 2 terabyte versions, but I did recently just have trouble where my 1 terabyte started corrupting files, and I'm not sure what happened with that. And I've been looking into it, and I've done some data recovery on that to try and get back some of my files, although I haven't saved everything. And so I am a little bit hesitant on them right now, even though up until that point they served me very well. So that's what I'm using for a lot of my storage. And then I do have, like I said, this USB-C hub that I use. It's from Hierarchical, and it has basically all the ports that you would need. USB-A, a USB-C with power, then the SD card and the micro SD card slot, which I use all the time. And what's plugged into this is a 4 terabyte Western Digital backup drive that I do all my backups to. So that's that. I use that same thing for my iPad Pro, which we are going to get to right now. This is the iPad Pro. Again, I've talked about this case before. This is the Ori Grid, and still, on the fence about it. You can watch my full review of that if you want to know more about it, but it's really useful, but the build quality is not great, is kind of the sum total of it. I've done a full video about my iPad, so I'll just go over it briefly here, but I have the Magic Keyboard connected to it. This is the 2018 iPad Pro, so the one lens module, and it is still super, super great. I love this iPad. I use it for so many things, especially when we're traveling. Design, video work, everything that you could need while you're traveling is basically wrapped up in this iPad. And then of course the Apple Pencil 2, which is one of the best creative tools that I've ever used. Again, I've talked a lot more about this. I also have the Smart Keyboard for it if I need something that's a little bit more compact than the Magic Keyboard. But these are the two main computer machines for me, are this iMac and this iPad Pro. And I couldn't be happier with them. And as far as other accessories go, I'm using the Magic Keyboard with the iMac, and I'm using the Magic Mouse. I really like the Magic Mouse and keyboard. I know a lot of people do and a lot of people don't, but I don't have any need to move on to some kind of like mechanical keyboard or a touchpad or anything like that. Everything I need I can do right here with this keyboard and mouse that came with the computer. The only thing that's annoying about that, of course, is the Magic Mouse still has that dumb lightning plug on it. And so when it dies, you basically can't do anything. So I kind of keep an eye on the battery, and it doesn't take very long to charge once it does die. But I can't leave this gear video without talking about what I think is maybe the most critical piece of gear in my arsenal, and that is actually the sticky note and the IKEA pencil. If you've watched any of my courses, you've seen me talk about sketching, and sketching is, I think, the most critical thing. It doesn't matter what gear you have if you aren't developing your ideas, and sketching is the critical piece to developing your ideas. And I love to sketch on sticky notes, and I love to use these little IKEA pencils. People think that's funny, but for some reason, I just really like them. Not sponsored by IKEA or anything. I just really like their pencils. So those are kind of the main pieces of gear that I have that I'm using for my creative work. Again, I'll talk about software in another video, but if you have any questions about any of this gear, please go ahead and drop those in the comments below, and I'd love to hear what you're using. What cameras are you shooting on? What computers are you using? Go ahead, drop down in the comments and let me know what you're using for your creative work. We'll chat in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.